Welcome to HeartMind-ify. Before we start the show, just a reminder to share, rate, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it. And please give us a 5-star rating. It helps us beat the big tech algorithms.
I'm John Izzy. Change can be difficult for a lot of us, but when we understand what makes us tick, we develop a better understanding of who we are and begin a journey of discovering our best self. Join me for a free session at johnizzy.com.
And I'm Kim Cordy, creator of the Emotion Chef Framework, an emotion management tool. Thoughts drive emotions, and emotions drive thoughts, but it's our emotions that drive our decisions and behaviors. Find out more at kimcordy.com.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Knowing each other personally and socially for the past 10 years, Kim and John have joined forces, bringing years of experience and training, providing a platform for growth and personal development, along with a little humor. John is the heart, Kim is the mind, and together they are HeartMind-ify. Well, hello, Kim. I don't think we've chatted really since Thanksgiving. So how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I had symptoms like a sniffles and a slight cough. I don't know. I might even sound a little congested, at least in my head I do. And a sore throat. I had a sore throat for like a week. And of course, everything in your head is COVID. And then you don't realize that, the things that you need to leave the house for, but Andrew's working, like, for those who don't know, I have an autistic niece and she's stuck at home. So there's a lot of running around that gets done for her. And all of a sudden I can't run around for her. And it was just a pain in the rear end. But happily, even though it took 5 or 6 days, I was negative and I kind of expected it. I don't do anything that attracts COVID, but you never know. A lot of people get it and go, how did I get this?
Yeah, exactly right. I know it's been kind of crazy with everything going on, but considering everything, things are moving along well, and I'm not complaining about too much. But it's interesting though that you mentioned that, because one of the things I wanted to talk about today was, and before we get started, I just want to say that I agree with the CDC, and this is not going to be a political conversation, but it is going to be a conversation that I think I've been struggling with lately, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. But one of the things that I have noticed lately, and probably since COVID hit this time last year, one of the things that I've noticed lately is how influenced we are by the messaging that we hear, whether it be from friends, whether it be from the newspaper, the news media, that we're influenced by a lot of different topics, not just COVID. You listen to the news in the evening and you're watching the news during the day. Every commercial that is on there has something to do with an illness. Or it has something to do with, maybe it's depression, maybe it's mesothelioma, maybe it's, whatever it is, diabetes. Like, there's always something wrong. There's never anything that is uplifting or, has any type of, enjoyment, I guess. It's just all doom and gloom. And I'm wondering how influenced we really are. And that has an impact on this, quote, COVID fatigue. Because if you listen to CNN or you listen to MSNBC or even Fox to an extent, you're going to hear 30 minutes on COVID, 20 minutes on the president, 30 minutes on COVID, 20 minutes on the president, and that's all you hear. And then you jump to commercials and you hear depression, cancer, all different kind of
Dying
illnesses,
dogs. I can't take that,
dying dogs. I
that
know.
that one commercial, I hear the music with Sarah McLachlan starting to sing, and I'm like, change a channel, like, I'll
Ah,
donate, but please, I cannot look at those abused dogs.
I know.
Ugh,
And I'm not saying the information isn't important for us to hear.
I agree.
I just wonder, are we being influenced in a way that really isn't necessary to get the message across? And then it becomes so much of a message that we then become numb to everything. I don't know. That's what I was thinking this past couple of days, and that's what I wanted to ask you. So, what do you think?
What do I think? When it comes to the influence, yes, there is a lot that of emotions get framed around the words that we take in. It's just our emotional responses are labeled. And so if we hear, are you depressed? Well, you know what? I've been living in, alone, and I'm older, and I might be feeling down, but because I see, occasionally feeling down, and because I see all these commercials that they feed you symptoms, and these symptoms are very generic, meaning it could be applied to many, many, many conditions or
Yes,
many, many different states of emotions. And they're like, oh, well, I must be depressed. Let's take a drug. And you're
exactly.
thinking, and that's what they're designed to do. John, the first time I saw a commercial for a drug, I thought, what the heck are we coming to? Don't they need to market to the doctors? But now what they do is they figured out, these pharmaceutical companies, no, market to the people. And then they'll go in and say, you know what? I feel X, Y, and Z. So maybe I need to take, you know, whatever, Zuestra, whatever those, I don't
Oh
even
yeah,
think that's a real drug.
Ozempic, and there's tons of them out there.
it, but the point is that it's being fed to us.
Yeah.
And this is where I agree with you. And we just don't have enough curiosity in us to think, oh, am I really? Because there's variations, right? Like you of emotions that are around depressed. If you
Hmm.
think about depressed, you are pushed down, like it's like below the flat surface. If something's depressed, it is bent downward
Yeah.
or inward, and that's that's pretty severe. So a severe depression would be like really deep, and we don't ever really sit back and say, is this really it? So I agree with you. I think we're being influenced in a lot of ways, a lot of ways.
Well, I think you're right, and I think it's why I wanted to talk about it because one of the things that you keep hearing a lot of, and I think we've heard about it now for about a month and a half. It was kind of overshadowed during the whole election period. But one of the things that we've been hearing about is this COVID fatigue, and everybody's suffering from COVID fatigue. No, everybody's not suffering from COVID fatigue. As many as people are out of work, and granted, I know that feeling, and that's a very hard pill to swallow right now. But for the many people that are out of work, there are many people that are still working. And there are many people that are still doing the things that they've done even prior to COVID, but now they might be doing them with a little bit of restriction, right? They might be wearing a mask or practicing some type of social distancing. So, no, not everybody is suffering from COVID fatigue. But yet, the funny phrase right now is, oh, I'm feeling tired today. Oh, you have COVID fatigue. No, I'm just feeling tired. I don't have COVID fatigue, for God's sakes. It's like, come on, people. Get a grip.
But even if you do notice that you're feeling fatigued from the constant, I'll just say it outright, the barrage of news around it, and all of the uncertainty and the naysayers and the battles going on, in our in the public arena. It's in the news all the time. So you can turn your TV off. You yeah, you can have some self-induced fatigue. You can handle it. And also look around, like some of the benefits that you've gotten. Every yin has a yang.
Yep.
And yes, maybe you've had to be inside, but now maybe, like, what are the benefits that you got from this experience? But that's where, if all you do is hear, I'm fatigued, I'm fatigued, I'm fatigued, guess what? Your brain goes, oh, what is fatigued? Oh, this is what you are. So I'm going to respond that way.
We have talked in the past where our emotions are the foundation for how we live in the world. And without a strong foundation, life becomes rocky and begins to crack. So you're left with a few emotions that drive your feelings and decisions, where if you expanded your emotions, your foundation would be stronger to support the various life situations by not relying on a chosen few. With that being said, we are missing a level of common sense by allowing it to be dictated to us as well. I get that we are being inundated with a lot of information right now. And I even understand that there are a lot of people out of work. Lord knows I've had my own struggles with work. Not to say that there are too many people throughout the world that are dying, while people in other countries are thriving or living a quote normal life because they have been able to control the outbreaks. But with all that being said, there are groups of people, and you can argue the media here, that are forcing us to remain focused on what they want us to be focused on. And they use terms like COVID fatigue or election fraud that keeps us engaged and prevents us from moving forward. And I believe, to a certain extent, that they are taking advantage of us by controlling the messaging. So the question I have to ask myself then is, what are we going to do about it? So we bounce back out of this fatigue in order to better ourselves and our families. We have to take control back by taking sensible measures that puts us first and the influencers second. It's the only way I think we can bounce back. No.
John, this reminds me of that movie, what was it, Broadcast or something, where the actor was a news anchor,
Oh
and
yeah.
he stood up and he said, I'm, sick of this, and said, I think he swore, and he said, and we're not going to take this anymore. We're not going to take this anymore. Oh man, I think we need, of all the revolutions that need to take place, maybe that's the one.
Right.
Yeah, like, we're not going to take you stupid politicians. We're not going to take the control of the messaging that's done also very slanted to a particular line of thought and idealism. And yet, when you combine the different news stations, you get kind of like a nice blend, right?
I
I mean, like,
don't
so if
think
you
you
think about it,
do.
well, really,
I think it's very polarized. I think
I
it's either far, far, far right or far, far, far left. I don't think there's a happy medium. And I think that's why so many people lately have been reading a lot of different news sources. They're throwing in news sources that they never even heard of before just to get some type of balance. Um, Trump right now is mentioning Newsmax, and there's another one to get the true conservative thought. And it's like, uh, yeah, that does me no good because that's so far right that I can't even wrap my head around that. And then you've got the far left, and there's nothing in between anymore. It's just
but
not.
there's NPR.
No, there
There's
is.
I listen to the BBC News. Um, there's a lot of different news sources. It's not just CNN and MSNBC and Fox.
And I'm not knocking those news stations because they're doing what they
No,
intend
but
to do. I'm not saying anything
But I'm
negative
just
about
saying
that, but
it does go beyond that. But I do
it
think
does.
that expanding your horizons, so, and being curious, this is part of the emotion chef, is trying to drive you to be more curious, because
I
if
like
you
that.
are curious, and openness is what gives you breadth. Last night I was reading an article in Scientific American Mind, and it was entitled "In Defense of the Psychologically Rich Life." People think that having security, money, things that, leads to a happy life. But you can be bored out of your mind, right?
Yes.
And then there's another type of life. There's two different kinds that people think of. A happy life, like I said, full of stability, pleasure, enjoyment, and positive emotions, or a meaningful life, full of purpose, meaning, virtue, devotion, service, and sacrifice. And this newest version is a psychologically rich life that's full of complex mental engagement, a wide range of interest and deep emotions, and diverse, novel, surprising, and interesting experiences. Sometimes the experiences are pleasant, sometimes they're meaningful, and sometimes they're neither pleasant or meaningful, but they're rarely boring or monotonous. And it got me thinking about how we always striving for happy and not for experiences. And so if we just kind of open up our curiosity factor and are more open to the things that irritate us, then we might open up to different ways of thinking or go down a path that is more psychologically rich. What do you think about that?
I love the whole concept of being more curious. I think it just sums everything up that you just said. It's as simple as taking a pause and questioning yourself and others. Sometimes I think we overlook the concept of questioning because it's easier to avoid than it is to spend the energy to engage. But if we learn to take a pause and be a little more curious or question yourself and others, then you might learn something about yourself and about another person. We all have reasons for why we believe in something, but the beliefs are solidified when we are questioned about them and forced to articulate. We might find out that we don't believe as strongly as we once thought we did, or our belief becomes stronger because we took a pause and allowed ourselves to question it or to be curious. I really like that, Kim. Let's all be a little more curious.
I use food, obviously, as the emotion chef to
You
try and
do.
help. I do, to help people get more comfortable with emotions. For instance, peanut butter. Why do I like this peanut butter? If I can describe, because I start my day out every day with a spoonful of peanut butter.
You do.
My my love for peanut butter, and I say love because I am passionate about it. It would be my one food I take on a desert island, and and I can describe it, right? I think you and I
Yeah.
have talked about this before. I can describe it. I can tell you what I like about it, why. So my description of it is detailed in my and how I feel about it. To develop the curiosity, we can use food for that too. What is a food that you disliked? You Ever since you were a kid, you never ate avocados. You didn't like something about it. And now you have it in your head. I don't want to have it because it has avocados. Instead of just saying, I always had this dislike of avocados. Maybe I should try it again with an open mind, because your mind has to be open to
Right.
say, okay, I'm going to take this as like a first experience. Andrew, my husband, is always like, oh, don't automatically, say no, like be open. He's a great source for this encouragement and a reminder for me because I will just say, no, I don't want it. It has this. I now like oysters a lot. And I would not eat oysters because they were slimy.
I still
And
won't eat oysters.
well, instead of focusing on the slimy factor, I started focusing on the taste and the I love the little sauce. I can't think of the name that you put on it. There's this starts with an M. I can't think of it, but it's delicious with it. Or oysters Rockefeller. And now I'll order oysters and eat them and enjoy it. So we change and circumstances change, life changes, but even if it doesn't, it's good to challenge it. So being open and being curious are what I am now coining a new term, which is life intelligence. We think about emotions and it's just all about like how we feel, but it's really more about experiencing life. And the more we experience life, the more intelligent we become about who we are and our life.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot because it takes you it takes you beyond the it takes you beyond the emotion that you're feeling, and it's understanding why you're feeling that way, or take it a step further, why you're reacting to certain things the way that you react to them. It's more holistic in its approach, as opposed to, yeah, I'm
It's
just,
experiential.
yeah, exactly.
Sorry for interrupting, but I'm like all
No, no,
excited about
no.
this.
That's no.
It's just coinciding because you had this topic which I really liked, and I kind of had this epiphany because emotional intelligence is used so much, right? And they've got
Yes,
quotients for everything now. Like if you look up the different kinds of quotients, they have curiosity quotient, all these different quotients and how to measure them. People don't measure them, do them, get out,
exactly.
experience. So
Exactly. And no, I think you're right. So I was wondering about this whole concept of being influenced by the media, by friends, family. We're influenced by a lot of people, and there's some of us that are easily influenced, and some of us it's harder to crack, right? So I was wondering, what are the things you can do to be less influenced by your surroundings? And the five things that I thought of, let's start with number five: stop making excuses, right? I think we make excuses for a lot of different things. Another one would be avoid being defensive. Not everything is about you, not everything requires a defensive response, right? Avoid being insincere, right? It's like, think about what the other person's saying and show them some respect. It doesn't mean that you have to believe in them, but show them some sincerity. And then stop looking for so much approval, right? You don't need to have everybody in the world approval for you to be a good or, um, a good person in the world. And then I think one of the most important things is don't be afraid to express your thoughts directly and clearly when you need to. Stop sitting back. Get your thoughts out there. Don't be afraid. Because when we do those things, then we're less influenced by the multitude of people that are coming at you on a daily basis, in whatever medium that is.
the audience can't see me nodding my head in
Yeah, you are
agreement.
nodding.
um, I really, really, really think those are all great points. And just to add to one, just to kind of
Yep,
um,
please do.
enhance it a little bit, is that perfect doesn't exist.
No,
And if you look at the account in the Bible, Adam and Eve were born perfect, right? And yet they made a a huge mistake by the account, right?
Yep.
Because according to the scriptures, that because of their mistake, all mankind falls short and sins every day. And so, why would we expect or think and not allow for ourselves to be wrong?
Absolutely.
And that
Absolutely.
was the only addition to your point, and to question everything. Like there's people who say, question authority. Well, I don't think questioning authority doesn't mean you agree or you don't disagree. It just means you need to check facts. I think I told you this story with my friend who was telling me this very far-fetched story, and I'm like, well, where do you get that? And she said, I feel like it's true. And we need to remember that feelings aren't facts.
Yeah.
But John, that list is great. You need to write something up on that.
I can do that. I can definitely do that and post it to my website.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great
No,
list.
I think you're right. Um, so I don't know. Those are the things that just were just driving me crazy over the last couple of days, and it's funny because eh, the reason why I know it's having a huge impact on everybody is because as soon as you mention the name Trump, or as soon as you mention the name Biden, or as soon as you mention COVID, or as soon as you mention mesothelioma, or whatever, is it mesothelioma?
Mesothelioma.
Yeah, that. As soon as you mention
Mesothelioma. Yeah.
mesothelioma, as soon as you mention that, as soon as you mention osepic, as soon as you mention any of those terms, it really has a very obvious response from people. If I'm talking to a Democrat and I mention Trump, I know what response I'm going to get, and vice versa on any of those other words. So, you know, let's just try a little bit to detach in order so we can reattach with more curiosity and more sincerity. I think it's huge. It's important.
Think of the words that you use. So if you think about depressed, um, that's a big word. So use other terms. Just say, you know, I'm a little tired of it. And to be tired of something means that you can recoup from it. You get some rest and you do something to energize you. And so just replace it with tired.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. That's a
If we're
good
just
way.
talking about COVID, if we're just talking about COVID depressed, or what was your term? COVID
COVID fatigue.
fatigue.
COVID
Yeah.
fatigue.
Actually, that's still, even fatigue is much stronger than tired. I don't know. I
It
think you
is.
can.
It is. But using the big $100 words is not is harder to get out of than it is if you use less influential words, right? So like if I use depressed, I feel so depressed. Do you? Like, do you even know what that means? Is what I want to, say to a lot of people that say that. And I'm not being a jerk. I'm serious, right? So instead of using big $100 words like depression or anxiety, you know, use words like I feel fatigued or I feel tired, or explain how you're actually feeling at that moment as opposed to what you hear other people telling you how you should be feeling.
Yeah.
And
Can you
I think
repeat
it's
your
huge.
list? Can you repeat your
One
list
more
one more
time.
time before we leave? Because I really liked it and I just want to hear it one more time.
Okay. So using these 5 steps to stop the habit of being easily influenced, I would say stop making excuses. That's number one. Avoid being defensive. Avoid being insincere. Stop looking for approval. And the number one, don't be afraid to express your thoughts directly and clearly when you need to. Not when you think you should, when you need to. That's my list.
Like it.
Good deal.
Like it.
Well,
Yeah.
Cam, this was a nice comeback. I like this. It's a
We
good
were only
topic to
gone a
talk about
week.
today. I know. It wasn't that long. Seems like forever. When we don't record a podcast, it seems like we've been gone forever.
I have barky puppies in the background.
I hear them. I hear them. Blue.
I would love to
Assed
say,
out.
hey, let's cut them out, but they're just a little bit of seasoning to end our to the conversation, right?
Mommy, I need to go out. I need to go out.
No,
Or
it's
do you
more
see
like
that squirrel?
exactly. There's a pretend somebody out in the front yard. They're always barking at every little noise. So
Well, I tell you,
we
it's
live
funny.
across the street from that park.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny because if you ever want to get my dog to show some excitement, I always jerk my body real quick. And she does this look where it's like she's not really looking at you, but she sees you out of the corner of her eye. And if you jerk again, then she'll bark and then she'll go find a toy. It's the most hilarious thing ever. I absolutely love it. And I'll do it in the kitchen where I'll stomp my foot on the floor and then she'll go grab a toy and she'll come up and she'll, rah, 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 rah. It's great. It's just, it's hilarious. I have more fun with my dog than I do with a lot of other things.
Well, there's something special about puppy love.
There sure is. There sure is.
Anyway, thank you, John, for the topic. I thought it was really good, and have a great rest of your week.
Hey, Kim, you do the same. And thank you to our listeners for joining us,
Yes.
as you always
Thank
do.
you.
Thanks, everyone. All right, Kim, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
New shows are available every Saturday right here on HeartMind-ify.podbean.com or wherever you listen. Kim and I would like to thank each and every one of you for allowing us to be a small part of your life. Be kind to yourself and remember, our hearts tell the story, but our mind is the conductor.